Thank you.
First down, actually, probably
You're cool.
I would consider it like
Okay.
99% of it.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the City of Escalon City Council meeting. This is the City Council regular meeting of September 3rd, 2019. Would you please join me in the salute our flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Merkin?
Here.
Councilmember Kremick?
Here.
Councilmember Legero?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Aus?
Here.
And Mayor Swift?
Here. Okay, and we don't have any presentations this evening, so we're going to go right to the consent calendar, and these items are considered routine in nature and are acted upon by a single action unless requested by an individual council member or member of the public for special consideration.
I'd move on behalf of staff's recommendation.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to pass the consent calendar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Consent calendar passes 5-0. Staff communications.
Sorry, I'm thinking if I have any communications.
While you're thinking about that, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Sometimes we have audiences that are fair size. Okay, this is a great size audience tonight. I'd love to have everybody. I'd love to see this many people, if not more, at every meeting. So thank you all very much for coming tonight. I appreciate it very much on behalf of the council. And by the way, you can come to every single council meeting if you'd like, just like you are tonight. I see the young gentleman in the front row. They're going to take a bit of a civics lesson tonight. Good to see you guys here too. Good to see the future here. So, Tammy, still checking something out?
While she's gone, I can share
Oh,
some.
yeah, if you have, yeah.
Labor Day weekend, is always a very active weekend, especially for CHP. Fortunately, it was fairly active for us. From Friday to Monday, we ended up with 3 DUI arrests alone ourselves. Also, today, Sergeant Lackey's squad carried out an operation because of the complaints we've been having at one of our local massage establishments. We conducted an operation today and ended up with 2 arrests, one for prostitution, one for allowing a house of ill repute to, and we've, the parties involved, one resides out of San Leandro or the other out of Oakland, so. And we'll see what the DA does with it. It's arrests were made and be submitted. We pulled their business license, and according to the owner, we can sell it.
Good idea.
Good.
Good idea. Hope we didn't rub them the wrong way.
Okay. Is there anything else, Chief?
It's almost as bad as some of the conversation went on during the operation. That's it.
Okay. I hope the kids can't hear too well. Okay, yes, Tammy, what do you have?
I do not have anything.
You don't have anything?
No, that's not true. I do. So we had, our billing statements went out for the 1st of September, and there was some miscommunication between us and the third-party processor that sends out the billing statements, and newsletters did not get included into the billing statements. So we're still working out that, trying to get those newsletters out. They do include information about the citywide yard sale, so we want to try to make sure that we get that out. I'm sure we'll be posting it on Facebook, and it'll be available on the website, but just kind of an FYI, it could be coming separate from your billing.
Okay, very good, very good. Anything else under staff communications tonight? No, then we'll proceed to matters presented from the audience. So, at this time, the public may address the city council on any item that's not on the agenda that is within the authority of the council. We would like to limit you to 5 minutes, because I know we're going to have a very busy meeting tonight. And if you don't use all your time, you may not yield it to somebody else. And the determination of whether an item is within the authority of the council is a discretionary decision made by the mayor. So, on any item other than what is on the agenda tonight, please come up and speak your mind.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Russell Fowler, Office of Assemblymember Heath Flora. Good to be with you. I'll make my remarks short because I know we're going to have a lot of communication. So just wanted to say it was a privilege to be at the Sketty dedication for the field. Had a great time. Good to see the community out there. And it was just, thought it was well-deserved. And I thought the letter from Mike Kruko was a nice touch. That was really cool. And just want to say good work to the police department. Glad everybody was safe during their operation. So. Any comments, questions for me?
No, I think that's it. I would like to reiterate, though, very briefly, what happened on Friday night. The A field, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Hogan Field, two main ball fields out there, the A field and the B field. And what happens at the A field is renamed Sketty Field after Emmanuel Francis Sketty, who was a long-time citizen of Escalon, and I don't know what he has not done for this community, but he was a major part of this community for years. And Rusty Fashioner, former teacher at Escalon High School, spearheaded this effort, and it turned out to be a great event. So if you were curious about what Russell was talking about, that's what he's talking about. Now the A field at Hogan Field is called Sketty Field, or for short, the Sket. So
I thought it was a great event. I did also want to just mention that don't forget the first of the month, we always have mobile district office hours here in the city council chambers an hour before the meeting, just in case anybody has any comments, questions, or concerns about state issues. So,
fantastic.
thank you.
Good to see you again. Anybody else like to speak on a matter that's presented from the audience? Again, you can speak on any issue other than an issue that is on the agenda tonight at this time. No? Not everybody at once? Okay, then we will go right to administrative matters, and this is going to be a public hearing to consider, or the council is going to, well, we're going to hold a public hearing tonight. I'm sure that's why everybody's here, and I think I'm going to let Tammy go ahead and explain the background.
Thank you, Mayor. So before the council tonight is, we're asking the council to conduct a public hearing to receive public testimony and consider if the city council should continue with the appropriated funding to rehabilitate the community center parking lot, the creation of an overflow parking lot, and appropriation of funds to the Escalon Parks Foundation for the skate park. At the city council meeting of August 5th, there were discussions regarding the city potentially giving the Escalon Parks Foundation, or EPF, funding for the construction of the skate park. EPF board member Mike Sipes gave a presentation of the status of the efforts for the skate park. He presented that the current funds raised estimated at $60,000 and the revised estimate to build was $415,000, and this was not including prevailing wage. If the city is to contribute funds to the project labor will be required at prevailing wage, which is estimated to add approximately $70,000 to $75,000. With the additional cost for prevailing wage, the total estimate is $490,000 and does not include any site improvements directly related to the construction of the skate park, including the establishment of utilities, landscaping, and ADA requirements as required. Excuse me. In the city budget for fiscal year 1920, there are two projects to be completed with the Parks and Recreation funds. That is the Community Center Pavement Replacement Project. The existing asphalt pavement at the Community Center site is in poor condition and has numerous significant failures, cracks, and depressions. It appears that the pavement failure is due to improper compaction and insufficient drainage. Several repairs have been conducted previously that included slurry seal and crack seal with poor results. The best solution is to remove the pavement completely and recondition the base rock, proof rolling the base material and installing new pavement. The concrete parking curb stops can be removed and replaced. Parking lot striping would be completed after the pavement cures. This project was budgeted for $203,000, with $29,000 coming from CDBG funds, and then $174,000 from the Parks and Recreation Impact funds. At the time of the staff report, I didn't have an updated engineer's estimate. I did get that after the staff report, and it's around $215,000, so there is a slight increase there.
For the totality of the project?
For the totality of the project, yes. Overflow parking lot, this project is to be developed in the current almond orchard to the north of the park shop. This proposed project aligns with the designated future parking lot within the Hogan Ennis Park Master Plan and would be constructed by tree removal, leveling the area for drainage purposes, application of road base, fence-off parking from the orchard, and moving fence from the park shop to allow access from existing parking lots. The Exhibit A in the staff report shows the designated areas and access. This project has been estimated at $35,000. And that includes the farmer removing the trees. Since the August 5th meeting, staff has been working to try and to define all costs associated with the projects. Information obtained from the EPF indicates the availability of approximately $57,000 towards the $490,000 estimated project cost. In addition to the estimate, there are site improvements such as landscaping, ADA parking, and sidewalk. Based on the skate park to be a 90 by 90 area, staff put together some rough estimates for the required sidewalk and ADA parking. Sidewalk was estimated at $20,000, ADA parking space at $5,000. For the landscape between the skate park, Escalon Balota, and Escalon Feed, an estimate of $5,000 to include plants, ground cover, irrigation, for a total cost of $30,000. The current total project cost is estimated to be $520,000, less the $57,000 estimated from the EPF, leaving the remaining funds needed of $463,000. These costs do not reflect getting utilities to the site for lighting, irrigation, and potential drinking fountain. There was some information that was provided by EPF regarding the design documents and the cost estimate, noting that the design was created between the EPF design team and Dreamland, and these drawings are not ready to be submitted for permitting. They are merely represent our collective vision, their collective vision, how the skate park might look. Phase 2 of the design work requires a more detailed practice, starting with soil sampling, subgrade substrate sampling, utility locations, and thorough investigation of the site conditions. This will allow Dreamland to finalize any structural design needs the park will require. The limits of the scope represented in attachment Exhibit B. The limits of scope are represented in Exhibit B, excuse me. No planned sidewalks, restrooms, or ADA considerations or similar were made with what is represented in that attachment. The cost estimate is a straight line update to how EPF previously contemplated contracting to Dreamland and does not include the prevailing wage. The cost estimate aligns with the conceptual drawing or design, brick, contours, concrete, steel, rails, etc. The cost estimate could change pending soil, substrate conditions, utilities, etc., or if unique design criteria are deemed necessary. The cost estimate includes an area highlighted light blue that the EPF has estimated cost the city might be able to provide that would also have dual purpose implications should the city elect to develop any adjacent scope structures associated with the master plan. The cost estimate should be considered complete with the above exceptions, but please note that one of the primary reasons Dreamland Skate Parks was selected was their willingness to allow certain portions of the cost to be donated, volunteered. Some items contemplated are reinforcing steel, concrete, small equipment, wood for formwork, limited labor activities. They've deemed it to be at best to not account for those potential savings until such time a clear path and timeline to construct the park exist. Up to this point, they have found themselves in a place where discussions with potential suitors or donations and/or volunteer efforts made any sense. The cost estimate can be modified to some degree or if need arises to reduce overall costs. Again, the cost estimate did not contemplate lighting, restrooms, fencing, ADA requirements, sidewalks, parkings, or anything outside the represented attached illustration. The location for the overflow parking and skate park are in the county and have not been annexed into city limits. Therefore, staff reached out to the county, who indicated for both projects there would be no requirement for annexation or permits through the San Joaquin County. Staff also investigated the irrigation pipe that is along the roadway of the designated skate park area with South San Joaquin Irrigation District. And South San Joaquin Irrigation District indicated to staff this was a private stub line that was previously used for flood irrigation and had not been used for over 15 years. So we should be able to remove and cap it. I did have conversations with our current farmer who leases the land. He's not so sure about being able to cap it. He believes that the line is still used to pressurize their sprinkler system, so we may still have to look into that a little bit more. Staff did some community outreach on our Facebook page for feedback regarding these projects and some other potential projects. Due to recent feedback from the Rec Commission, a project for a complete rehab or new bathroom was included in our survey. And to understand the desire of the community, additional baseball or soccer fields were proposed. At the time of the staff report, there were 291 responses, the largest response being the rehabilitation of the new bathroom, followed by parking and the skate park. Comments from the survey were useful in the aspect areas of improvements at our current facilities, such as reworking of our current fields, additional sitting areas around the fields, and the biggest comment was the desire to see improvement to our bathrooms, regardless of the recent updates. Please understand that this survey is not scientifically vetted, and those taking the survey did have the opportunity to vote on the survey multiple times with different devices. Also, it's been noted that the fencing at Hogan Ennis Park needs repairs. Staff has reached out to fencing companies to get an understanding of the cost. And at the time of the staff report, we hadn't got any of those back. We have gotten 3 of them back at this point, and they range in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $30,000 for the repairs out there. We haven't vetted through them because some of them were just received today. The item before the council tonight is to consider to continue with the 2 parking projects with prior appropriations, and I should make a correction. The prior appropriation is with the community center parking lot. The overflow parking lot, staff was asked to get the estimates and costs on, and it has not technically been appropriated for, although it was the consensus of the council to move forward with that. And then consider making contributions to EPF for the construction of the skate park. Should the city council decide to contribute to the EPF, it would be recommended that there be an agreement between the city of Escalon and the Escalon Parks Foundation regarding the funds and project. It should also be noted the skate park will add maintenance cost. And again, I didn't have them at the time of creating this, but speaking afterwards, Public Works Superintendent Justin Collins spoke with Riverbank. Primarily, the biggest cost of maintenance is the graffiti and then gum off of the concrete and stuff. But as far as like chips in the concrete and stuff like that, that's not a big thing. It's the graffiti or gum. There is a breakdown, a summary of revenues and expenditures within the Parks and Recreation Impact Funds since July of 2008. And I can answer any questions of those. But at this time, again, I will turn it back to the council for questions or open it up for public hearing, whichever you prefer.
All right, thank you very much, Tammy. And I do want to reiterate one item on page 3, which basically it says, as soon as I get to it, that the decision tonight, this is an actual item. The decision tonight is basically, do we stick with what has already been allotted, okay, which is the community center parking lot rehabilitation, the overflow parking lot? Do we take some of those monies and donate them to the, or basically allot them to the Parks Foundation for a future skate park? Those are the 3 issues that we're really trying to delve on, because I know there's been a lot of other ideas out there, but this is what we're looking at, this is what we're gonna look at action tonight. I will tell you that both for the council and for the audience, there are a few people in the audience and on staff tonight that I know can answer several questions. I don't mean to call them out right now, but I might as well at this point. I'm sure that Mike Sipes, if you wouldn't mind answering any questions regarding the Parks Foundation, if anything come up. And I'm sure, Justin, you're probably in a pretty good position to answer any questions regarding, and Dominique as well, regarding the parking lot, the condition of the parking lot as is, and the potential of the overflow parking lot at Hogan 2 that we're looking at building. So this is really what it boils down to, is how do we spend the limited amount of money that we have? And this is why we have a public hearing tonight. Before I open the public hearing, are there any opening thoughts from the council?
I have a question. So I got the survey too about the different questions, and you said there 291 responses, right?
Correct,
And the number one was rehabilitation of the bathroom.
correct.
I remember we talked about this a long time ago, and I said we should spend the money to build a brand-new bathroom, and I don't think we were in favor of, because I think it was like $250,000 to do a bathroom, which is psychotic, but it sounds like, that's government prevailing wage. So we chose to go the in-house route, and we updated it, and I think that they're definitely better. But those corrections were already made when this survey was sent out, right? And that was still the response was update the bathroom, right?
That is correct.
And then the second thing that people wanted to see was more parking, because it's also crazy out there if you have little kids and you're trying to cross. I've not been hit. I've almost been hit by cars. I've had to, cross in that road. I have to cross that road to get to the community center. And sometimes taking my kids to soccer games and things like that. So it seems like number one, new bathroom. Number two, better parking. Number three, skate park. That's the way the survey came in from the public, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to make that and get some understanding there. And I had another question. This is kind of a secondary question, but so if we were to give the money to the Parks Foundation and they were to do the skate park, they would essentially avoid prevailing wage. Am I correct about that?
No, that is not correct.
They would still be subject to it?
Correct.
Even though it's a sort of a private thing doing work?
But it's with
Public
city public
It's because you
funds.
use public
okay.
funds?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So just to be clear again, there's no indication that we don't have a solid number, like we don't have plans, exactly a budget of what it'll cost to do all these things, right? We're kind of
There-
estimating.
Yeah, I think that we would probably have a close number, but I think that a site survey, and some other things still need to be done before you have,
Right, okay, so we're talking about essentially gifting or whatever, about 400,000 to the Escalon Parks Foundation, am I correct?
well,
What was it?
I only call out in here that there's still about 463,000, I think, funds needed based on what they have. What the council decides to do is up to the council.
So we can decide to give a certain amount?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's what tonight is about.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear what people have to say and what the other council members have to say. I know I've got some mixed feelings about this, so I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say.
Anybody else like to ask any questions, opening questions before I open up the public hearing?
I would like to know, if we do all of these projects, it's going to take more money than we have in our Parks and Recreation Fund. So that means we would have to dip into budget reserves. How much?
So based on what I have budgeted for the 1920 year, Parks and Recreation Fund is estimated to have an ending balance of 307,000, providing that my revenues come in as projected, the expenditures go out, which includes the parking lot for the community center and the overflow parking. So if that all comes in, the 307,000, and I think I said 463 was the remaining balance, so you would be dipping in there about 163,000.
And that's not including running water, power?
Right, yeah, those numbers are not in that estimate.
Okay. And what does it do to other existing recreation programs like flag football, baseball?
So the programs themselves do not run off of these funds. They actually run off of our general fund. So the operations of those would not change. It would be like the improvements to the fences, if, you know, if we needed to pay for that. Another item that staff has looked at is the replacement of the PA system at the community center. You know, different little, projects like that, then they would potentially have to come out of general fund instead of these funds, which they could be taken out of. Or another thing that wasn't included in the estimate for the skate park is I would imagine that we would want to do cameras, some kind of security cameras there. So that estimate's not in there. Not enough time to even gather that because we have to figure out some kind of connection point and stuff. So, but, you know, that could be an additional cost too. But again, you know, as noted by the EPF too, this cost estimate does not include any potential donations or labor donations.
They don't know what those are.
No, we don't, yeah.
Peter, do you have another?
Yeah, so just to be clear, this, what we're talking about, does this include the the overflow parking? Is that like part of it?
Part of the motion tonight?
Yeah.
Yes.
To
So,
pay for the expanded parking?
yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think what you would have to do would be to decide to pull the expanded parking in the community center parking allocation. We would have to consciously choose to pull it out if we wanted to use all those funds for the skate park.
if
At this
you
point.
didn't want to dip into the general fund reserves,
Correct.
yeah, one way or another, you either need to cut a project if you're gonna try to fund the full skate park, or you need to pull from general fund reserves, or do an interfund loan, with the general fund and the Parks and Rec.
Or do a limited contribution to the skate park,
Correct.
which I don't know if that'd be enough or not, but, you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get to that tonight.
Did you, by any chance, I think this would have been something to do, maybe reached out to other communities around us that have skate parks, like Oakdale or Riverbank, and ask, so what's, you know, what kind of use do they get? What element do they bring in? I mean, you said the number one, man, this mic's like super loud. The other problems is graffiti. That's a little concerning, right? We don't build something of a bunch of graffiti. So did you do that at all?
As far as, the use of the skate parks?
No, I mean, just ask the other cities, how are these things going? Are they worth it? Was it worth it? I'm sure it was a similar situation that they just, let's put in a skate park. Has it worked out for them?
No,
I
I
would imagine that's
haven't,
probably something that's been vetted, I would expect, by the Parks Foundation with this project. I would expect that they would have vetted that, right?
yeah, I personally did not reach out to the other cities in regards to that. I know that Justin reached out to Riverbank specifically in regards to the maintenance side of it.
Did they say anything else, Justin?
No, honestly, it was just really talking about the graffiti and the gum. And honestly, in my personal opinion, I don't see graffiti being too much of an issue because if it's going to be on there, we're going to get it off within really soon. So
Right.
I wouldn't focus too much on graffiti.
Okay, that's fine.
Mayor Pro Tem, yes, you may, yes, you may. Speak into the microphone.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right. Tammy, I want to get something straight because I'm a little confused here about all this funding. Current balance in the fund as we sit here now is,
So you would want to look at the funding balances of June 30th of 2019. It's $400,891.
okay, very good. Now, what is the projected income for next year's budget from those same sources that money got there?
116,000,
So that's the projected for the 2020?
1920 year.
1920, okay, so that makes about 516,000 in that span time. All right, the other question I have for you, is there any possibility of taking funds from transportation funding for these parking lots? They are related.
Impact fees for transportation are typically your access to commercial or residential. It's your streets, it's not your parking.
Is it?
Because you're collecting your impact fees for park and recreation, that's supposed to cover the impacts of park and recreation, which is where these parking lots are.
But there's no nexus between the two.
No, but when you do your impact fee study, the nexus for transportation is all street related in roadways or signals,
What about the
traffic
roadway
issues.
from the parking lot over to the new parking lot? Is that a roadway?
No.
What is that called?
It's called a parking lot.
No,
I
there's a
mean,
road-
well,
There's a road between the two parking lots. Is that not?
Access to the
it's an
parking lot.
access road, but,
Oh, well, it is a road. So-
well, it's an access.
Well, a road, come on. Semantics here. So my thinking is that's gotta be connected to traffic mitigation.
But that part of it is minimal,
Well, it all adds
unfortunately,
up.
to the cost,
It
but.
all adds up. All right. Well, how about this? How about the fact that we tie it together with another project we're doing, that we could use some of the materials from the project from transportation that might soften the burden of the parking lots we're doing?
Well, it could. We are considering that, well, it's not taken into consideration in the estimates, but there could be some potential savings depending upon the timing of the community center parking lot. We could use some of the grindings from it for the overflow parking lot, but
Perfect.
that is not considered in here.
Of course not.
Because timing is
I
uncertain.
understand, but I'm just saying there are some variables out there that we haven't really,
Right, and I mean, your road base, I think, in the parking lot is around $12,000 to $14,000.
okay, well, that's a nice little hunk of change. All right, well, those are the questions I had. I just was curious what the balance was, what we had coming in, and was there a possibility of drafting funds from other sources? But it also, keep in mind that we might be able to use some surplus from other projects, if any surplus, or in just a buying consideration because of the volume. Maybe that would help us too, I don't know. And as far as the base on that parking lot, the one you're talking about is the new one? The one for the, near the skate park, is that the one? you're talking-
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
If you could get me more information on the type of base you have, maybe I can find somebody that could come along and help us out on that.
Yeah, so at this time,
Type 2 roadway.
Type two?
Thank
Is
you.
that what it's called, type 2?
Yeah.
All right. And how many yards do you think you're gonna need of that, do you know?
I'd have to look, I have it written down somewhere. I don't, Tammy might have it there, but I don't have the,
Would you get back to me on that, please?
yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
480 tons,
How many?
480 tons is what the quote that we got states.
And the reason why it's in tons, because if we get it in bigger bulk, we can get it cheaper.
Well, no, I get it. All right, makes sense. What is the road base actually? Is it ground up rock?
Exactly.
What, 3/4?
Depending on what size you get, I think 3/4 is the best, yeah.
Okay. 480 ton. And is that, then the asphalt goes over that after the land's cleared, compacted?
No, there is
No,
no, that's.
That's, for the
yeah,
overflow parking, there is no asphalt.
It's just gonna be the rock? Mm-hmm. Oh, how interesting. All right.
Okay, if there aren't any further questions, I really like to go ahead and get the public hearing started. The one thing that I will ask is if you can keep your comments to within 5 minutes, because there are so many people here tonight, and the chief will be timing them for us, and I appreciate that very much. Let's open up the public hearing. And not everybody at once.
That doesn't have to be prevailing wage either, because I get donated and trade off the sign. So much forever for this guy, who cares?
Oh, and please state your name and where
Anne Marie
you're from.
Forshea.
You-
So my first
You're
question.
from town here?
What?
You from town here?
No, Robert.
I know
I'm
you're
not
from town, but
here.
for the, what's
For
your
the
address?
record, we would
For
like
the
your-
record, I live on Alry Avenue. If you guys egg my house, I'll know who it was.
And by the way, that's for everybody else too. Please make sure you state your name and where you're
I
at
see
from.
all of you. Do not egg my house. I have a pressure washer anyway, so it's okay. Anyway, so my first question is, the bathroom statement that you had, that's a question to me. That is important. I get that. The drainage in the women's bathroom, that does bug me because I have to tippy-toe around it, but then again, I'm a country girl, so I'm okay with that. But my kid getting run over on Arthur Road is definitely more important than the bathroom. So commonly, I go to the park around 11 o'clock in the morning for soccer. And at soccer, if you go there, anyone who has gone there at 11 o'clock in the morning for soccer, there's no parking. I cannot find a parking space, and this mother goes to work at 8 in the morning on Saturdays. I leave work, pick up my kids, and I go to the soccer game. I cannot go to the soccer game earlier than the 15 minutes that I get before the soccer game. So I never have parking, and my 3-year-old daughter doesn't really like to walk all the way. So I throw her over the fence to other parents, and I don't really like doing that. Now the bathroom, I can work around that. There's a porta potty in the field, and my daughter can use a porta potty. So that bothers me because I wonder when a child is gonna get ran over and who is going to sue the community center. That's really what I wonder. So what's more important, the cost of a parking lot or the cost of a skate park? Or what about when someone sues the city for their child getting run over walking to the game? Because I can tell you right now, if my kid got ran over walking to the game, I would definitely sue you guys. So let's move forward from there. So, budget reserves. We're gonna only have $307,000 after we spend all this money. So what's the most important thing to spend money on? Now, when you own a house, you think about all the money you spend, and we put things first. Plumbing comes first, whatever, parking, driveway's important. So let's just think about that, and let's move forward from there. A skate park is a luxury. Skate park we can have later on. We can add cameras later on. We can do whatever later on. That's baby steps. But my kid getting to the game safely, because I do soccer, baseball, football, I do everything at the community center. And my life is pretty much there 3/4 of the year. So yeah, I want my kids to be safe. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw a hand in the back. Come on.
Cody Fowler, 1550 Judith Way. It's been a while, gentlemen, since I was here last, but I think that we have better things to spend our money on here than this skate park. So just like she said, every time I go to a soccer game on Saturday morning, there is 0 places to park. In addition, it seems to be half the town is parking in a, private property, almond shells across the street. That doesn't seem very appropriate to me. But then going along with what she mentions about suing somebody for getting hit on their way to the game, heaven forbid if some kid gets run over on that private property, right? You're causing a problem for somebody else. But in addition, the existing parking lot definitely needs to be repaved. I mean, there's gaps like that in the cracks. My 13-year-old with a size 10 foot can put his entire foot in those cracks. And when I look at maybe an individual such as this here with one of these wheeled motorized scooters gets caught in that, you're going to cause them problems for sure, big time. So we need to get the parking lot fixed, and I think we need to add more parking. I certainly would not add additional facilities when I don't have any parking to accommodate it. But I'm going to express my opposition to the skate park, just based on the fact that I believe we have more important things to be spending our money on. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Rowley. Okay, who else would like to speak? This is open forum.
Well, as a member of the community here, I'm always wondering about the way the city council spends their money, and I'm still kind of confused about the issue of the skating park. Like, what are the pros and the cons of it? It was kind of a little bit hard to understand the expenditures and stuff, but it seems like somebody should have the pros and the cons why we should have this park. To me, it seems like it's a place where people get hurt. I don't know what, is it past its time or what? I mean, I wish you guys would make it a little bit more simple to understand. Why do we need this? Who are the people that are going to support it? I know there's 3 kids that showed up today, but I wish there was more information for the public to understand what was actually going on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Christy Miller. I am a resident here. My son Carter is back there in the corner. He's 12. He's been skating since he was 6. And unfortunately, we have to drive out of town to visit a skate park. Oakdale has a beautiful skate park. I do see that the cost of this is very expensive, and I would just like to ask that you would consider maybe a donation if you can't afford the entire thing. I know that they've been trying to raise money for this, and it's a lot of money. And I like that this gentleman asked for the pros and the cons. My son can skate pretty much in my driveway. He can't skate really on a neighbor's driveway. Neighbors complain if he's on the sidewalk. The street, I don't think, is technically somewhere he's allowed to skate. He can't skate at a school. There's really nowhere for him to go skate. And I like the option of skateboarding because otherwise we're in the house on the computer, playing video games. This is something that's really great for kids to get outside, get some exercise. It's unfortunately, people think that it is trouble and dangerous, but we, knock on wood, have never had an accident. And my son really loves skateboarding a lot. So I think that it would be a great addition to our city. It would bring more young families here. I think that it just would benefit our city a lot for younger families and people that are looking for something to do outside of video games and inside activities. That's all I have to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Hi, my name is Debbie Harris. I live at 1738 Alicante. And first of all, I want to thank all our council members for being here, putting in your time, running, and being good stewards of the city. So thank you. I've known Ed for many years, and I've grabbed him, and we've gone around the town to look at all the improvements that we need to make, and I point out all the wonderful things that go on, and you know, there are things that we definitely need to make improvements on. And I think everybody agrees that we definitely need the parking. So I think that's the priority. And then there's a lot of other things that we need to improve that we already have there, like the fences and different things like that. So I think the skate park is a wonderful idea, but I don't see how we can combine that with really what we need, the core items, the responsible items that we need to take care of first. Once we achieve that, and you know, we all agree what the money is going to be, and implement it and do the construction, and then at that time, if we have any, you know, revenues, any money left, then we can see about doing something like this wonderful skate park that we would all love to have if we were all rich. But you know, just like the young lady back there said, you know, when you build a house, you have priorities. And, you know, this to me is like having the great backyard with the outdoor kitchen and the fancy pool and, you know, the slide and everything. But, you know, you need a kitchen, a bathroom, you need all the fundamentals first. So that's my 2 cents.
Debbie, thank you.
Thank you.
An open forum, please come up and speak. And I do appreciate everybody so far limiting it to within the 5 minutes a lot of time. Thank you very much.
You may not want to hear what I have to say. I appreciate everybody's Danny Fox, 1510 Adriana. I thank the council for doing the public hearing. I got to say, first off, I'm in full support of the parking lot renovation project. It came out in the survey, and I think we can hear some comments here from the audience. However, I'm strongly opposed to make any contributions to the skate park project at this time. My comments are not intended to offend any one person or any one group. Rather, to provide information which should be considered on the issue moving forward, I believe sensibility, prudence, particularly due diligence, need to be considered as we are a small community at 7,300 population. In 2011, the Parks Foundation was formed, 501c, filed with the state. Specific purposes of the foundation is to aid, sponsor, promote, advance, and assist in the provision, development, and maintenance of public parks and recreation services in the city of Escalon by providing support to the city for such purposes, with particular emphasis on facilitating the construction, maintenance, and operation of a public skate park by the city, to receive, invest, and utilize funds and property acquired through the solicitation of contributions, donations, grants, gifts, bequests, and the like for the purposes for which the foundation is formed. The city of Escalon spent $11,000 to get the foundation formed. They turned over a fireworks booth to the skate parks foundation to raise money. And during that time, 8 years, there's been no assistance in development and maintenance of public parks and recreation in the city thus far. I came before the council at the, prior to the budget. I talked to Justin about some kind of fencing at the park was about $1,500, $2,000. It wasn't in the budget, and I heard no word whatsoever from Escalon Parks, plural, Foundation. Most all skate parks in the surrounding areas have been built by generating funds from grants, private donations, gifts, contributions, fundraisers, bequests, and the like. This seems to be the best approach, and for which the foundation was formed, not by depleting their Parks and Recreation Fund or making a major hit on their general fund reserve. As we know, the Parks and Recreation Funds are generated from residential developmental impact fees only, nothing commercial. Mr. Murphy's 20 acres would fund about $450,000 on a side note. The Public Skate Park Guide estimates that a 10,000 square foot skate park, and I know it said 90 by 90, but on the form it's 100 by 100. That's 10,000 square feet. They're saying the cost of that to start with is about $50 a square foot. That's $50,000. 500,000. You put the poles for any lighting and like that, standard is going to be about 11 to 12,000 additional. Now you're up to 512,000. Although every community around us has one, we as a small town of 7,300 must be sensible and prudent as we move forward. Something that fits us, like a house. Small house, big house, and you start with the rooms. I think a better way to go would be a smaller project and much less expensive, but would match the size of our town. For an example, Riverbank's 9,100 square foot skate park, they're 22,600. We're 7,300, and we want an 8,000 or 8,100 square foot. Waterford, 8,000 population with a skate park of 3,800 feet. The skate park development guide will give you how many skaters or participants will be handled at one time. 8,000 to 11,000 square feet will serve a resident population of 25,000, and at any given time, 65 persons. A skate spot, about 3,000 square feet, is good for 12,000 residents. Will accommodate 5 or 6 patrons at any given time. I can go on. Weed, California, Buell, Idaho, Kena, Idaho, Anaconda, Montana, and they're all small cities. They get it through funding. They get it through grants. They don't go to the cities and say, hey, we need a $500,000 skate park. We need some money. Waterford, California skate park, and I have nothing against the skaters. Waterford Skate Park, 8,000 population, was formed by one boy, 14 years old. I've got a binder here.
Danny, to summarize, please, if you don't mind.
I've got a binder that shows all kinds of cities, how those were funded. So I think a prudent way is to back off, take a look, and maybe downsize this skate park. Do you ever check Dreamland Skate Parks LLC? Did you vet them?
Not us. No, that was done through the Parks Foundation.
Pardon me?
They were recruited through the Parks Foundation, not through city.
Yeah, well, they're good. They're the most sought-after skate park designer and builder in the world. They got one going on in Israel. They got them going all over the country, whether or not you contribute or not. They're like the Frank Lloyd Wright of the skate park business. I really think that we could probably just back off, take a look, regroup, and get a skate park together that fits.
Appreciate
Thank you
your
very
input,
much.
Danny. Thank you very much. And I know there's somebody else that was about to rise just now. Mike?
Hi, my name's Mike Rourke. I lived in the community for about 25 years and raised all three of my kids here. And I'm the president of the Escalon Parks Foundation, and most of you know. When my kids were young, and well, let me go back. In 1975, I started skateboarding as a kid, 8 years old. And I still skateboard to this day. I'm 51 years old. And it's been a lifelong something that I do regularly and that keeps me in shape. And when my kids were growing up, I saw the need here in this community for the same sort of thing, for them to be able to go and skateboard and have an activity to do, because not everybody plays soccer, not everybody plays baseball, not everybody, even though I did all those sports when I was young, skateboarding was my biggest thing, and my kids love to do it too. So I ended up building a ramp in my backyard, a big ramp, which my wife was opposed to at the time. So, but I went ahead and did it, and kids started coming over to the house, just hearing about it, word of mouth. And I would come home from work, and 10 or 12 kids would be standing in my driveway. I didn't know. And I don't know, maybe some of these kids are them. I'm not sure. But I began then thinking, man, somebody needs to build a skate park. And then I had heard several attempts had been made already to build a skate park here in the city, but they had all fell through. Either they just gave up or couldn't find the funding or whatever. So anyway, I decided, through talking to some other people that, yeah, we should do this and we should go for it. So I understand that there are many needs in a city, for other things, and I completely agree with that. We do need more parking other places and stuff too. I guess I'm just here to advocate what I've been trying to advocate for many, many years in this town, is to give the kids that aren't playing those games or doing those things, give them an option to do something, because they're just as important as the other kids that are playing football and soccer and baseball, and they don't have a place to go. People don't want them on the sidewalks, for good reason. People don't want them in the streets for good reason. So it's just trying to be even and with everyone and give everybody that opportunity to have a place to go and to skate, and trying to address some of the things. I can't remember quite all of what Danny was hitting on, but Dreamland Skate Parks is two people that started out of Portland, Oregon, just doing concrete, just doing that themselves, and it just has grown to that, because those particular contractors are skateboarders themselves. Everybody that works for that company is a skateboarder and has skated for many, many years, and they know how to build a park, and they've just built themselves for years and years and years, and have established themselves as the best builder, one of the best builders around. They're pretty, I think that they may not be the cheapest, but they're not the most expensive either. So that's how we chose them. Plus I had some people that knew them, that were friends with them, and that put us in contact with them. So anyway, I'm just here to advocate for the skate park and just say that I think that we should give the kids the opportunity and that they deserve.
Mike?
Thanks.
Hey, Mike, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
What have you done looking at grants to try and fund this?
We've looked into grants, and I think we've been denied, how many grants? Twice on the grants that we've denied. We went through Tony Hawk Foundation. There's stipulations in those foundations that, if the city makes too much money, or, you don't have a low income area, or, just there, and you have to fit within those guidelines or those stipulations before that they will grant you any money. Several of those, like Rob Dyrdek Foundation, Tony Hawk Foundation, those things, and then the grants, obviously, and then our fundraising each year.
Have you guys talked with other cities about how they
all the
funded?
surrounding cities? Now, when I lived here in Escalon for 25 years, I used to travel to Ripon almost 2 or 3 days a week, taking my kids and skating over there. Not a problem with graffiti anywhere. Of course, their park is right behind the police station, so I'm sure that helps. But, and they have camera systems set up there where they can monitor that. But I've been Riverbank's small park. That went a long time before I ever saw any graffiti there. I've just recently, in the last few years, have seen some graffiti, but it's been painted over. Oakdale's park, all these ones have been done through grants, except for Ripon. I think that there was a big donator, a contributor to that particular park. But all the surrounding cities, and I think if we look at that, there must be some importance to having a skate park in your city. If you go, okay, well, all these little towns, Ripon, Oakdale, and Riverbank, and have a skate park in their town, and we're sitting right in the middle of all that. So I just think that instead of having to have kids travel to other cities and stuff like that, it would behoove us to have something here for those kids as well.
Councilman Legere, you have another question? Yep.
So as far as the grant funding, you've used grant writers?
Yes.
You've reached out to look at the various grants that have come available?
Yeah.
You
Well,
haven't
we've looked
qualified
at
for any of
multiple
those?
grants and only certain ones that we're able to apply for based on our, the categories that we fall into.
And the median income for this community is too high to qualify for those grants?
Yes.
You've looked for large donors?
Yeah.
You've looked for your own Mr. Misslin?
Yeah.
To fund this
Well,
thing?
different, yeah.
Any luck?
No luck in that, no.
All right.
The only funding we've been able to do is our fundraisers.
Okay, let's talk about the fundraisers. What are the fundraisers that you guys have held to try and generate income?
The two fundraisers that we've had, the only two that we've had is the fireworks booth and the wine booth at the park fee.
In the fireworks booth, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is when the fireworks booth was run by the city, it was a money loser because we had to pay staff to staff the fireworks booth. This is going back to when Henry was involved. So Henry's idea was to create the foundation, to make the foundation eligible to go out and raise funds for different parks and different recreational facilities. And part of that was to turn the fireworks booth over to the Park Foundation so that they could volunteer and staff it. And then that money would go into the Parks Foundation, and that would ultimately return to the city.
Yeah.
So the fireworks booth and then the wine booth is a joint effort with the Lions Club, correct?
Right.
So out of those two fundraisers, since the foundation has been formed, you've raised $60,000 to $70,000?
60, I think, I'm not sure what the number is, but I think it's around $60,000.
What's the source of that money? Where's that money coming from?
The community, just these people here in our community that are just coming to our fireworks booth and buying it, specifically for the skate park.
What do they tell you when they're buying your fireworks or?
Oh, just that, that they're behind us and that they're for it, and we always, try to tell them what we're about and everything, because I think a lot of people have walked up and they don't really know, they're just there to buy fireworks, and I'll tell them what we're for, and they're like, oh, yes, I want to contribute to that, and they will contribute just based on, what we're trying to achieve, for the community here.
Are you getting donations from kids?
Yeah, we get some donations from kids too, yeah. It's not a lot, but it's just, what they have in their pocket, so.
All right, they're giving over their birthday money or
Yeah,
Christmas
yeah,
money?
yes.
Okay, so these are kids from the community.
Yeah.
That are reaching in their pocket and providing that money to the Parks Foundation?
Yeah.
Specifically for a skate park, correct?
Yeah.
They're not giving you money out of their pocket for a new bathroom, are they?
No, that's the thing as I wanted to say too, is that we have, on our agenda, the very first thing, even though we fall into that category, the Escalon Parks Foundation, the first thing on the agenda was the skate park. So any funds that we raise is going to go to a skate park, not to anything else. After the skate park's done, then we move on to the next project, which would be, whatever we choose, so.
All right, so and that was a specific goal, a specific intent behind
that was
foundation's efforts?
Yeah, the reason why it was started, the reason why I joined it, the reason why the rest of the board members here is specifically to have a skate park.
And as far as the areas where kids that are in this community, where can they skate in the community?
I don't know of any place that we can skate, and unless you have a backyard pool or something like that, that's in, it's a private property, but, you can't skate on the sidewalks, you can't skate in the streets, you can't, businesses, or you can't go to the schools. which are a lot of great places that kids like to go because there's fun skatable stuff there. But you're not allowed to.
Do you know a lot of community members that have to go to other skate parks to skate?
Yeah.
And when you were
Most.
taking your kids to skate parks, were you running into families?
Yeah, there's families there all the time with blankets and picnic baskets, you know, setting up to watch their kids for several hours. And then they had skate, you know, there was a volunteer, the guy there that had, he did skate lessons on Saturday mornings, you know, just volunteered to be there and give kids skate lessons and stuff. So, and the families would come to that as well. So there's like events that, you know, you can.
Okay. How about now Dreamland? Is that the only builder that you guys talked to?
No, multiple builders. Yeah, well, I mean, we had, my name escapes me now of all the builders, but I think there was about maybe like 4 or 5 other builders, five other builders that we went to.
And the goals, but when you were reaching out to these builders, was there some reason why you were reaching out to skate park builders?
Just through investigating online different parks and going to those parks, like I've been, you know, all the way to Santa Cruz and Redding, Sacramento, Benicia, Turlock, down in Merced, Santa Barbara. I've just seen all the different parks that were built and who built them, and you know, the ones that you find that most kids like to skate, that are actually built by skate park builders, not just, you know, concrete contractors and things like that. So yeah, so
the board vetted different builders?
It did what?
Vetted these different builders? You
Yes.
reached out to different builders?
Yeah.
Did you get bids from them?
Yes.
Was there some reason why you specifically went with Dreamland?
Just because the cost, it was cost effective. They were lower than a couple of the other ones that we did, but you know, they were higher than a couple of them also. So they were somewhere in the middle, you know, is that right? Oh, that's not right. Oh, Dreamland was. Oh, Dreamland was the lowest cost.
And do they allow you to get donations, or can you offset the cost by going with Dreamland, by getting materials donated, labor donated?
Yeah. Yeah. He has more of the financial end of that, so let me switch.
All right.
Is this part of the 5 minutes?
Well, that's a very good point. What happened, there was a second line of questioning, and so, because of the council, we're trying to get as full a read of this as we can, and the assumption, yes, yeah. And the main reason for that is because I know that on this one, Mike and Mike are the principals on the skate park issue. Justin would be a principal on the parking lot issue in terms of the mechanics of the parking lot. So that's why we wanted to find it like that, so that if we needed to ask these individuals questions, we could have the time to do so.
Is Gerald a principal on the skate park as well?
No, he's not.
Just part of my 5 minutes.
Nope. Well, do you want to only speak for 5 minutes, or do you want to answer Councilmember Legero's questions?
I'd
I
like
thought
to
you
answer
came up
those.
there with
I
that.
would like to, first of all, Mike Sipes, 409 California Street. I would like to answer Councilman Legero's questions. I do want to make a few minor corrections, and I want to ask Tammy one question, if I may. The cost to remediate the parking lot at the community center, you said was in excess of $200 and something thousand, $230,000. Do you know exactly how many square feet that is?
I don't think I do.
And we said 480 tons and $12,000 for the road base, which is typically a 12-inch section of AB, right? On a parking lot?
It'd be 6-inch, actually.
6-inch, so
Actually,
12,000.
5-inch.
5-inch.
5-inch,
Yeah.
and then the road base, so $230,000 minus the 12. So we've got to pull the
So-
asphalt out and put asphalt in for another 200 grand.
Okay, so that's two different areas that we're
I
talking
understand,
about.
I understand, but I'm
So
looking at a
for-
per square foot cost. So my question was, the only difference between remediating the parking lot at the existing community center and the new parking lot is removing the AC that's existing and repaving. Because the same 6-inch AB section has to go underneath both. So let's assume that's the same square foot cost. I don't know anybody that would charge more than $7 or $8 for AC paving for an area like that. So I would, I'm not a
sure
skater.
that
I'm not a skater like
I'm not
these
sure
guys.
that I'm following what you're
I'm just
saying,
looking, I'm
but-
asking about the questions of the
So-
costs for
So
parking lot.
for the community center parking lot, it's approximately 30, almost 40,000 square feet that we're doing. So I did have that answer.
Yeah, and then what's the new parking lot?
oh, what did we say it is? Square footage is
like it's at least 3
approximately
or 4.
20,000.
Okay, by representation, it looks like it's 4 or 5 times the size of the skate park, so,
Well, no.
but you're only
That's-
building half of
That's
that?
the design. That's not, we're not doing the full design. Actually, go ahead and go down the other way. So there, so the green box there is where the proposed parking lot.
Okay.
And square footage on it is approximately 20,000?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Mike, if I may ask, where are we going?
I guess I was doing the math in my head with the cost, and if the only difference between the 2 parking lot structures is removing the old AC and putting in the new AC, it seems like $200,000 is a lot of money just to do
But-
40,000 square foot.
but
That's
the-
$50 a square foot
But
just to do
the
that.
other parking lot is not getting paved.
I understand that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I understand that. But nonetheless, $25,000 for just 5 inches of 480 tons of AC or AB for 40,000 square foot seems disproportionate than the cost of the new parking lot.
Yeah,
I guess my point is a couple of things. I do want to make a clarification. I agree with everything that everyone said here. First and foremost, I think that remediating
Mike,
the
let me give you
parking
a few more
lots
minutes.
are.
I assume you were coming up to
Yeah,
answer Councilmember
I will.
Latero's
I
question.
I think that the parking lots are super important. I don't think anybody here has been saying that they're not. I'm definitely not an advocate of people's kids getting run over. My boys all went there as well. We're here for a different purpose. Obviously, we've been trying to put together something that we believe is representative of what the community wants. We know that Mr. Fox has handpicked some areas that suggest that the size of the park that we have selected is greater than our per capita size. That could be, I could probably find as many examples where it was equitable. There's 2 things that I wanted to make sure that I clarified. We went through a very elaborate request for proposal system or process where we vetted out a number of contractors. We put together a list of criteria that we wanted. It was the same RFP that went out to every single skate park builder. We took suggestions from, like Mike said, other communities that had built parks. We found the 5 most reputable. We had 7 or 8 that we built, that we reached out to. Some of them wouldn't even give us the time of day because of where we are, our community size or otherwise. A minor correction to what Mike said, and all of these bid documents and these requests for proposals, everything's completely available to you guys if you want to look through it. It's been that way since day one. We're not doing anything behind closed doors. But Dreamland did come in as the most financially responsible contractor. In addition to that, they took an effort to come out and see the space and meet us and see what we were envisioning and get a feel for our board members. And they were wanting to know what the relationship was going to be like with the people that they would be tasked with working with. In addition to that, they were the only company that would allow for donations, be it concrete or steel or labor or equipment. They said, and it was candid, Tammy copied quite a bit of the notes that I sent to her a couple of weeks ago right into the item that she read earlier. And we have not been successful with any of our grants. We've not been successful with any of our major donors because there's been no finality. That's not to say that we can't go find Mr. Mislin in our community. That's not to say that we can't find someone that's going to donate $50,000 and we reduce the budget. Right. That's not to say that P&L Concrete won't give us $25,000 of concrete, or we can capitalize on Ed's guy that gets the rock and we can use the base rock for portions of the park. We don't know those because we've had no ability to actually give someone a final answer on when those funds could be spent or when they would be required.
Yeah, Mike, let me ask you a very naive question because I do want to move on to the next person, so I don't want to take your time up, but I think we're probably at the end of it already. But let me ask you a question, and it's been a burning question. You know, there's a lot of different fundraisers in town, a lot of different ways to make money, Kickstarter, things like that. And a question that has been asked to me quite a bit, I obviously I don't have the answer because I'm not part of the Parks Foundation. There are many fundraisers in town, dinners, make 20, 30 grand a pop. It's not uncommon to have it, 15 grand a pop. Has that been a consideration? Because that would also be an excellent gauge of the actual community support. I know the museum has a dinner now every year, and it's packed. I know the Kiwanis has a crab feed every year. and it's packed. I know there's sports boosters dinners and they're packed, and these are all manifestations of the community support. I'm wondering if that would also be the case here. Has it been considered, or what do you think? Why has that never happened?
I'm not going to say that we haven't tried some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
We've never wanted to step on the toes of what Escalon Boosters wants to do for the school and for the, you know, the fields. We don't want to steal their thunder, so to speak. We have contemplated what other opportunities exist for us to go out and attempt to get larger fundraisers. We were on the cusp of putting together a dinner in which Dreamland was going to come out. This was a couple of years ago. We thought that we could get some key people that we thought would be heavy hitters in the community that might be interested in helping. At that time, we thought every $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000, like you said, Mr. Swift, would be important. But what we started to realize is that in reaching out to all these people, because we were literally within a month of having this dinner, what we found over and over again was people like, well, you know, when do you really think you're going to build a park? Well, we don't know when we're going to get all the money. You know, if we get $200,000, we're not there yet. If we get $350,000, maybe we can find a way to get the rest of it. We've just never had any real closure. Again, the budget that's been assembled up to this point has been completely based on a full budget. We've not collaborated or coordinated any of our efforts with the city up to this point. I know in the last council meeting we talked about doing that. I shared some information with Tammy. I do see that there's crossover. I'm not a skater, I'm a construction guy, so I look at construction costs and what we're doing here. I think there's opportunities for us to reduce our costs, but there's also an opportunity to reduce the size of the park to an amenable amount. But up to this point, the Skate Park Foundation has operated completely independent of
And Mike, I
any
appreciate the answer to that question. I'd like to be able to have you, you know, be close, just in case there's any other questions regarding the foundation principles, but I would like to get some more opinions in here, so I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I have a question before Mr. Sipes sits down. So the up to this point, this has been an independent operation by the Parks Foundation, and now that you see the Parks and Rec Fund, and you see the monies that are available and what we're trying to do with that money, is that something that you could go back as a foundation and go back to Dreamland and say, here's a dollar amount, or here's a target that we're shooting for? Will they work with you on your plans and the size of the park to try and accommodate? Granted, when this started, when the foundation started, you know, there was this is the ultimate goal. This is how we want to build it. This is what we think is appropriate. But over the course of time, it's clear that generating that money and finding grants is just not in the cards, at least at this point. Perhaps there will be a donor that watches this on YouTube and says, I'm going to write you a check. But that hasn't happened at this point. So realistically, moving forward, if the city is going to have some park and rec funds available that could be used for a skate park, could this be sized appropriately?
Mr. Sipes, please keep your answer brief.
Of course it could.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Peggy Roach of 1510 Adriana Way. I think a skate park is a great idea. I have supported the skate park from the beginning. I bought wine from the booth at Park Feed every year, and I'll continue to do that. My problem with this whole thing is maybe transparency. This is a good showing tonight of people that have come to the council meeting, but respondents on that survey, you said 291. I'm just wondering if everybody in the community realizes that the funds for the park would be depleted if this was supported, and maybe isn't there a possibility of this being put on a ballot at some point in time to ask the community if that's what they want, and if they do, I mean, is that a possibility? I don't know.
There'll be costs involved in that as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, there would.
Could be done.
It could be done, but yeah, there would be a cost.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that there are a lot of people, they understand that people want a skate park, and I think a skate park is a great idea too, but I'm thinking about so many other projects. Just recently, we're doing this senior thing, and there's all kinds of projects that we're thinking of. That day that we were there, people were talking about a walking path around the community center and other projects that may not be funded because if the city depletes all these funds, there won't be anything left. So I think it's a great idea, but I think that the whole community should be part of making that decision and not just a few people. And I think a lot of community members don't understand where all that money's coming from. So maybe a ballot if that's a possibility, but in the meantime, if you continue to do the funding for the skate park, I'll continue to buy wine at the park fee too, to support it.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Peggy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kurt Danziger, 389 Noni. I too am glad the little kids are here to do a little civics lesson. Unfortunately, they haven't seen everything. A meeting a little over 2 weeks ago, this council was in a staff report ready to send this money this way to this park foundation. Nobody knew that was on the agenda, that was going to happen. I stood up and I said, wait a minute, I think the people that like the soccer fields and want the parking and what have you would like to come up and say something. They needed a chance to do that. That's why we're here tonight. Back in June, we had a budget meeting, and we budgeted for that Civic Center parking lot. And the funds from the block grant were added to that to complement all of that money to get the job done. That got approved by all of you. All of you. Where was the skate park? So what happened between the budget and 2.5 months later? What urgency popped up that says, we got to start spending city money? It's burning a hole in my pocket, and we got to spend it. This is what you also need to hear when you're coming for a civics lesson. So I think each one of you needs to identify the need right now for that skate park to use city fund. And I don't think any one of you should vote until you've expressed your opinion on it. Sitting in the back, watching this from the beginning, I got the feeling it's a done deal. Yep, nope. I mean, that's just a objective opinion from myself. And I'm glad people have gotten up and expressed their opinions for the parking lot the way it is. I talked to several of my neighbors, and I said, you know, I heard all these different funding applications, taking an interfund loan from the transportation fund that could be used, you know, down the road for the stoplight at Ulray or Brennan. And the person said, well, aren't they going to raise our water rates? Why don't they use that money for that? You're going to hear that. You're going to hear that in a few months. You're doing your study. We're going to get another 5-year increase on water rates to pay for our infrastructure system, and you're going to spend the money on a luxury. What's the urgency? And I think you need to explain that. Explain why it is now. You know, it wasn't in 11 years. I've been coming to all these meetings. I remember when they first got up in 2011, and it was, we've got people, we're going to get this thing built. We just need the city to give us some land. The city not only gave them the land, they set up the 503C. I don't think you've got the community support. You've got a few people here. Councilman Lugero said he was going to bring 50 people here. Well, if 50 people would put in $10,000 each, you still don't have enough money to build the park. It is kind of a money pit.
Hey, Kirk, let me just stop you there, just to correct the record. I don't know where you got that.
Where was
Never
Kirk
said
at all
that.
this time?
Go back to the YouTube. You said you could bring 50 people in here to support that park. When I asked, where's the community support? That was your response. I say, where is that community support? You know, we've written some grants, we've talked to this and that. Well, where's the pudding? You haven't gotten the money. And I've gone personally for my own projects and try to get these things passed, and I've been successful in some and unsuccessful in others, and that's just the way it is. That's part of life. There's other parks around here. I don't have a hospital here. I drive to Modesto. You don't have a store here, you know, that like a Winco or what have you. I drive over there. Yeah, we all drive here because we like a small community. But because we're a small community, we don't have the money. We don't get grants for anything here. We all know that our MHI is just too high. And with that, with so much money, how come they're not supporting the skate park? What happened to the argument Mr. Blanco brought up and some others about selling half of that park? Peter, you were for that. Sell half that land out there and put it into the park. That hasn't even come up. So, I look at this right now is it's a budget issue. You can't go through now with just a few little people right here and say, we're going to spend city money and it not be budgeted. And I know I'm going to get my 5 minutes up there because I'm not a member of the Park Foundation, and you're not asking me any questions and supporting any of the ideas that good governance should be doing. Good governance, people, not for or against the skate park, but how you go about doing it. And that's what I have to say. Do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts? Mayor?
I've got a lot of thoughts. Yeah, but none that I'd like to express at this moment. I have thoughts. I really don't have any questions actually to you at the moment, so no, I don't have any questions.
Do you think there's other projects in this town that are more pressing to spend city money on? If you were just going to pick a project out right now and throw $400,000 at it, is there another project you'd like to do? We're going to get a report from Pace here in a month or two, and it's going to outline some structural things for our treatment plant. And if you start taking all the money out of there, maybe there's some things that are emergency things that we need to do. Maybe we don't go and do Z, but we have to do, A, B, and C. That's where your money is. We went through all those years where we were strapped for cash. We almost went insolvent, because the debt service for this building and the Civic Center, and it's like you all forgot about that. Oh, well, we got some money now.
I do appreciate your time, and you brought up some very good points, I will tell you that.
Well, I hope so. Good luck.
Evening, Dave Bellinger, 1420 Winterbrook. Couple clarifications to ask about what Kurt had just mentioned. The money that's currently in the fund, could you bring that up, Tammy? The fund, the revenue and the expenditures page? So of the proposed there, you've got $300,000 left if we do the parking lot and the overflow parking.
Correct.
If we didn't do any of that and we've got $600,000, can you apply that to a stop sign somewhere in town? Can you apply that to any of the projects Kurt mentioned? I thought that was specific for Parks and Rec.
Those funds are
So we can't use it for anything, it's specific for Parks and Rec. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, I just
With
wanted
the exception if there was talk about going into the general fund reserves.
to borrow money against for the projects we
Yeah,
want
so
and want to do, but you can't take that money out of the Parks and Rec fund to do anything else other than parks projects.
Correct.
Okay. And is there a minimum balance required for that account?
There is not.
So it's at the discretion of the city council for those expenditures then?
Yes.
Nobody else? Okay. Is there a limit on how much the city can loan to do projects for the Parks and Rec, for any of these projects?
No, that's the discretion
That's
of
at the
the
discretion.
council.
What's the cost of capital if they were to loan that money to them to do a park?
It would be at what the current interest rates are with the local, it's the state's funding for cities, or investment account for the cities. We typically use that interest rate for loans, interfund loans.
And when did that fund start? Was that 2011? Is that what I heard? Was it?
You're talking about the Parks Fund, right?
Yeah, the Parks Fund to generate that
I
600
imagine
grand,
that's been
whatever it
around
was.
for years and years and years.
Yeah,
Parks
I'm not,
Fund.
it's whenever our development impact
How
fees
consistent
created,
is-
I'm
How
not,
consistent is that estimated $116,000 on an annual basis?
it's not
It's
consistent.
not consistent?
No,
Has
no.
there been ups and downs on that?
Yeah,
Obviously, with the recession,
there's probably been a period, I mean, there's been 3 years where no funds were collected.
Okay. But is there no length of term that we can, it's up to you guys to agree, hey, we're gonna loan you 100 grand, it's gonna take you 10 years to pay it back, you take 10 grand off, it's up to your discretion to do that?
It's up to the council's discretion, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, Dave, actually, to bounce off what you're saying, I do want to make a point now, at this point. With that 116,000 that comprises this year's budget, that does include the developer impact fees of 4 homes. I believe the developer impact fee monies to the park fund is, what, about 14,000 and
It's
change?
$14,000, almost $100.
Right.
Per house?
Per house.
Right.
I had a
right.
question about that. The 4 homes, they're building like 20 homes, right?
The homes in Westwood, a lot of those, the permits have already been pulled. They do have some homes left to build, but Primarily, a lot of those funds were received in 18-19, which is where some of the growth from in this fund happened.
The dilemma that we've had with the whole concept of building a big park is the same dilemma that we're having now with this, in the sense that your funding sources are very limited. I think Danny Fox alluded to that, okay? They're essentially limited to developer impact fees, of which we have very little growth in this town, which is, and has been, for generations, a conscious choice of this community, okay? And that's okay, but then that means that it's gonna be very sporadic, those developer fees that go into this Parks Fund. Your other source, of course, is what we're doing now, what you see as the crop revenue / home rental, okay? In other words, we have 2 orchards right now, we are getting income off of those, and that's another subject for another day, because if you cannot rely on your developer fees, then you've got to just cling to whatever sources you have to refill this, this account.
Yeah.
You know, the Parks Fund. So it's, I want to make that clear to everybody, that it is somewhat tenuous, but we all need to be cognizant of where the monies come from to replenish that account. So if we were to drain it down, that's, again, we need to be really thinking about how are we going to replenish that account? What are our mechanisms? And if you exclude the developer impact fees, we have one mechanism, and that's it.
Very small. Okay.
Very small.
Thanks.
I know I've already had my 5 minutes, but I just want to answer a couple of questions.
2.5, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I mentioned Dreamland Skate Park, LLC. Mike R. mentioned them as well. 2 brothers, excellent design builders for skate parks. What they like to do, I can show you, is phasing. That's how they did Burnside Park in Portland, Oregon. You need to Google it, check it, do the vetting, find out, and see how they did that. Piece by piece, little by little. They didn't spend $500,000. They did the very same thing in Lincoln City, Oregon. They phased. They got a size for the community, come back in phase 2, 9, 10 years later, and they phased it. So Dreamland Skate Park LLC understands phasing. I know it's been a long time. You mentioned 1980. I was involved in that. I can tell you right where it was. I can tell you why that fell through. And had it gone through, we would have been like Prineville, Oregon. It would have been turned into probably a 13,000 square foot park on a phasing. I know it's been a long time. You're anxious. It's been since 2011. But Sherwood, Oregon population is 18,000 people. Their project history and timeline, 2006 to 2018, because they had no money. They had to dig and work and dig and work and donation jars at the supermarkets. They hit the banks and everything else. And finally, 2018, they hit an Oregon State grant covering 60% of the skate park, $542,000.
And how many years were they into that?
2006 to 2018, took them 12 years.
Okay.
So they took a long time and they persevered, but they ended up getting them a 13,000 square foot skate park. So back to my original statements earlier.
And Danny, I'm probably gonna need to call it, okay, just because I wanted to give everybody else a chance to speak as well.
Well, we're talking about $520,000, Mayor.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I'm not against the skate park. I'm just saying $520,000 when there's examples out there all over the country that's phasing.
Yeah.
Start small, population is 7,300. That's all.
Well,
I think that's reasonable and it's prudent.
Let me throw this question to Mike and Mike. Has there been any thought about phasing this concept in? Or is the economy scale such that it's just too, you can't do it, or has it been thought about?
We've been open to phasing as well, but, and we have talked about that. Just to correct one thing about Dreamland Skate Park and Burnside Skate Park.
Can you come up to the mic?
Sure.
Yep.
Burnside was actually built by the community of skateboarders that actually started underneath a bridge, and they just came in there with sacks of concrete and brought their stuff and just started building it with no permission at all for the whole city. Those 2 brothers were the guys that started it. Now, skaters came in, everybody brought a sack, every week. It was just slowly. That's how that park happened. And then, once the city recognized it, that it was a very hot spot where all skaters from all over the world started coming to that, because those two brothers, how they started it, and it was just it was unheard of how that happened. So that's how that park became popular. And skaters started coming from all over the place because of that. And then they all started pitching in. Well, the city finally said, okay, we're gonna make that a designated spot. You guys can have it. And that's how that got going. So, but that's the reason why they built it in phases, because they didn't do it with
Is
money.
there any way to make that happen
Yeah,
here?
they went to work and they came over and they shelled out some money and got a sack of concrete, went back, spread it on there, and that's how they did it. That's how it started. And then I think bigger people got on board as this park started to grow.
Okay, Mike, appreciate that very much. Anybody else who'd like to speak? Well, I gave it to Daniel. I better give it to you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
It was in my original notes, and I got caught up in good governance. Some of the monies that's not on here, as was listed, well, a couple of them, permits and what have you, is the city time that's spent already. There's no dollar amount that's been put on that yet. Typically, if we're going to give city money to a project, the city's going to be responsible for it and oversee it. Another cost that's not in there is the general charge, the government charge, which is going to be 10%.
No, it's not our project, though.
Then we shouldn't give it our money. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to take the money out from the parking lot, you lose the grant money, the community development block grant money, right? Because they can't use it.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said initially.
The 200 and whatever thousand includes a community block grant money. There's 60 some odd thousand.
It's 29,000 towards the parking lot.
All right, but they cannot have that if the city gives them the other money, right? You'd mentioned that before. Sorry.
No, if we didn't continue with the community center parking lot, we could potentially lose that money.
Right.
But that CDBG wouldn't go anywhere towards the skate park.
Well, exactly. But if they take the money, you're not going to.
Oh, if they took the money from that project and put it towards the skate park, yes, we could potentially lose the CDBG funds.
Right.
Sorry.
So there goes your parking lot. So again, I'm for the parking lot. I'm for better management and getting monies into this park foundation. Maybe you need to switch up the management and get better ideas. You've had some great ideas. Maybe you can help them out and run that foundation for them. But
I'm a little busy as
I know you are, but we do appreciate it. But the point being, 11 years.
Yeah. Okay. Before I close the public hearing, obviously we're going to take it back to council at some point here, and I want to also remind the council that this is an actionable item. However, if you choose, and our city attorney, Ann Saprell, I want you to verify this if I'm right or wrong, and if I'm wrong, I won't be offended if you tell me I'm wrong. If there is no motion made or seconded, and therefore, if there's basically no motion, then we go back to the original default spending plan, which is to spend the monies
As budgeted.
as budgeted. The community center parking lot rehabilitation and the temporary parking lot,
Well,
right?
technically, the temporary parking has not been appropriated
Okay, so that hasn't been.
because we didn't have those estimates
Okay.
previously.
So then we would go back to just if there's no motion made, we will go back to just going with the original spending plan.
The status
Just the
quo.
community center
Yes.
parking lot. Okay, I want to remind you of that. The public hearing, however, is still open. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak before I bring it back to council? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and we will bring it back to council for action, for questions, interaction.
I have a motion. A motion.
Go ahead.
All right. Based on the conversation with the Parks Foundation and the amount of money that they're looking for and the amount of money that we have to spend, and this has been, we wouldn't be having this conversation if we didn't raise this issue the last meeting. We wouldn't be here having this meeting. We wouldn't be having this meeting if we didn't have Parks and Rec funds in that fund to spend. So at this point, though, there seems to be a lot more groundwork that needs to be done now that we understand where the Parks Foundation is with their funding, what their sources are, and what is not available to them. And we understand what the city is gonna have available projected through June of 2020. I believe the Parks Foundation's been working with the city to try and identify some of those areas. There's some areas that the Parks Foundation could improve or reduce the cost of the park if they have some conversations with Dreamland. So at this point, I'm prepared to fund, as budgeted, the community parking lot rehab. I'd also move forward on the overflow parking, and then the remaining balance of the Park and Rec Fund, I would leave that as is until we can get some more firm numbers and figure out the way forward if the skate park is going to be viable or not based on what we have.
I'll second his motion.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded, and Councilmember Legero, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been moved and seconded to essentially add the funding for the overflow parking to the 2019-2020 budget.
Correct.
Okay. It's moved and seconded. Discussion on this item. Seeing none, we'll proceed. We will go to a vote. Again, I want to reiterate, the motion is to fund the overflow parking lot as part of the 2019-2020 budget. Sounds good?
Yes, appropriate the funds for the overflow.
Appropriate the funds? Okay, Councilmember Legero?
Sounds good.
I actually have some discussion. I don't know if we can back it up.
Go ahead. No, we can back it up.
I'm sorry that this is all happening really fast. My mind's gone back and forth so many times on this, but I didn't expect that motion. I thought we'd go for the funding. I've got a lot of conflicting ideas about this project, but I guess I do got to say a few things here. So, number one, I think these mics are a lot more sensitive tonight. I don't know if that's some
They are.
technical thing or
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways.
Sorry.
I'll back up. To your comment, the girl back there, about, if you're crossing the road and somebody gets hit and you're going to sue the city for that. I got kids. I cross that street all the time. I had to save my kid from getting hit by a truck the other day crossing that road. And I don't know if that's something you can sue the city for if, you get hit crossing. Well, right. So I thought that was.
Thank you.
I just thought that was an interesting comment. If you could, maybe you can, but anyways, I just thought it was funny. Another thing is, I think people got to understand, so say we have $400,000 in the parks fund, right? So that's in this hand, and you want to replace a stop sign, which is over here. You can't do that. Say you want to take the park money and, like Kurt's saying, which is a big deal to me, is the wastewater treatment plant. We can't take this $400,000 and apply it to that. You're not talking about the same issue. So to me, and I've talked at length, with different people about this, and people have one feeling about a skate park as opposed to this. But here's my thinking on it, and I just have to say it. I didn't think I'd be faced with this issue being up on the council, but I am about investing in the future, and I do feel like I would really love to see that whole park expanded, either half of it. I am in favor of looking at the potential of selling half of it. I think 19 acres it'd be a massive park. And but anyways, what I'm trying to say is, I think that doing the skate park, doing the parking is a step forward in that. It is part of the plan. And I think if people see that and it's done well, that we may be able to go after expanding that entire park. So even though I'm conflicted on this issue a little bit, practically I will say that I do see the skateboarders that are in town. They are over in the Marval Shopping Center, which is where I do business. And I would like to see them have a place. They go in the back, down the truck ramp behind Marval. They go out in front of the bank. And I know that they would like a place. The amount of people, I don't know, but I would just say I was prepared tonight to vote in favor of funding the thing, even though I've been really conflicted on it. I've been going back and forth in my head. But I've just decided that we have the money to sort of fund this project. We don't have money to fund all of the park. This is a step forward. We have the money, and if that fund is depleted, I don't know what it's going to do to the other parks. I've been to every park in this town with my kids. I've been to Sanchez Park, Brentwood Park, Hogan Park. that fund, I'm not sure what that money even goes to, maintaining the swings, I don't even know. So that's all I'm saying is, it's a tough one, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. I just want everybody to know where I stand on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion before we proceed to a vote? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes 5-0. And we are on to council communications. Councilmember Crumick.
Nothing.
No? Councilmember Legero.
I want to thank the Parks Foundation. It's unfortunate that people look at you as the enemy of the city here. You're all volunteers. You've been volunteering for a long time. You've put your efforts into making this project happen. I'm not discouraged. I'm glad this discussion was had. I'm glad we're in a position to have this conversation. But I want to thank you all for the efforts that you've made, the time you've dedicated to this project. I think there's some kids in the front row here that probably appreciate your efforts as well. I still have hope that this project is going to get done. Hopefully people are watching YouTube and see the resistance that you're getting to this project by some members of the community, and maybe they will step up and see this through. But we have limited funds. We know where you started. We know the ultimate goal that you have, and now you know where we stand, and hopefully that by working with the city staff, you'll be able to come up with a plan that might fit within the monies that we have. So thank you for your efforts. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Legero. Councilmember Merkin.
I just want to go back to what Mr. Fowler talked about earlier, was the dedication to the Sketty Park out there, and thank everybody that showed up. And if you haven't seen it yet, go out and take a look at it. They did a great job on the plaque. I mean, it looks like the guy is still alive on that plaque. Go out and look at it. Very deserving, and there were a lot of comments out there about how Escalon needs to do this more and recognize the old timers that contributed and help build this city and make it what it is today.
Councilmember Merkin, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Alves.
Well, it's been an interesting evening. First of all, I want to thank Councilman Legero for his dedication to a community project that is enormous, and his efforts. And his committee. Unfortunately, money is always the bottom line, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of it. But I want to commend you for your effort to the community, giving your heart and soul. I think all of us up here, we try to, past and current members of this council have always tried to do the best they can for this community. I would just like everyone to keep in mind, this is not them against us, it's just a debate. It's something we should do on almost things, everything we do, but we shouldn't be at each other's throats ever. I think submitting your issues is fine, making them personal is not such a good idea. But other than that, I think we'll work it out, it'll get done, and I had some ideas I wrote down tonight I'm gonna explore as time goes on. But again, I wanna thank the committee for what they've done, and don't give up, we'll get something going here. The town has been, our staff has been working diligently to clean up our city. Our city has somehow fallen prey to people who think that they can come to Escalon and park their cars on the lawn, 3 or 4 places, and do all the funky stuff they're doing. And it just doesn't really fit in any community, to be honest with you, in my opinion. That have your cars on the lawn and stuff like that. I mean, double parking cars on your lawn and letting your fences go to hell so your neighbors have to look at them. I just think that when you live in a city, you accept the responsibility of being a good neighbor. And I just hope that more people can understand that. You don't have to have the most pristine home in town, but it'd be nice if you just take care of it. So I think it's something we need to look at more. Hogan Park, I've taken some time and reviewed that. The bathrooms look wonderful. Thank you, staff. They did a great job. That looks really nice. And we didn't have to spend some $250,000 to do it. I think that was a wonderful move on you guys. You've come through for us, and it looks excellent.
Thank you.
The fencing out there looks like third world. I mean, I'm disappointed in ways you don't even know. When I was living in Stockton, going to junior college, after high school, my freshman year in junior college, I remember going to Stockton baseball parks, and it looked just like that. I mean, they were run down, they were concaved, and it just, to me, it's not the place for Escalon. I think we're much better than that. I think we need to give some time to that, and staff has stepped up, and they're gonna work on that. Skets, I went to Skets dedication. Mr. Francis Getty was an idol of mine as a kid. When I was in 6th grade, he came to Lone Tree School and taught us how to do a southern roll. How to jump over a bar, it's called a southern roll. And we had sawdust, and I remember him coming after work in his work clothes. He had a tie on and a shirt and slacks, and he rolled over that bar 4 foot high. I mean, like, it was no big deal, and he had to be in his mid-40s at that time. It was young. Oh, he was a character. The man he was a treat to know. Yeah. Walt's comment about the old timers, we've bounced that around a couple different times. I agree with you, Walt, 100%. There are certain groups of people in this community that give their heart and soul because they have a passion for our community, and some because they have the time, or a combination of both. And I agree with you, Walt, 100%. I wish there was a way we could, and I know there's a way. It's just a matter of getting together and figuring it out. But to acknowledge these types of individuals, I know we have a coin that the city gives to, what's the coin called, Tammy, that we give? Are you with me, Tammy?
Yeah, I am. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think. I don't know that it has a,
It has a name on it.
it has our seal on
But
it.
it also has a name on the back, doesn't it?
A volunteer coin.
That's what it is, a volunteer coin, okay. Anyway, it's a nice token of our appreciation. I think Dave got one, and that's because you do a great job. Thank you again. But anyway, in the final summary, I just want to say that we're still the greatest town around, and we'll work out our issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Alves, and I'd like to reiterate that. I remember I was talking with Russell on Friday night at the Sketty's dedication, and I said, you know, whatever happens Tuesday night, you know, I just want to keep one thing in mind, that it's things like that dedication, that's the soul of this community. But, you know, after what I saw tonight, this is also the soul of this community, and I'll tell you why. Everybody here is passionate. We had a civil discussion. I thought it was pretty civil, okay? We had a great education and lesson, economics lesson about town finances, city funds, things like that too, okay? I'm hoping everybody comes away from tonight knowing a little more about how this animal works. It is a different animal. I'm from private enterprise, this is a different animal, okay? But there is a way that it works. And I'm glad we had this discussion tonight. This is every bit as much of the soul of our community as any event that we have out there, be it the Friday night football games or the A-field dedication or soccer this Saturday. And I especially want to thank the young men for coming tonight. You got a great lesson tonight, okay? And will the skate park be built? Yeah, it'll be built, okay? It will be built, but it's going to take passion and perseverance, just like all great things. It's going to take a while, but I have every confidence that this committee is going to eventually get it done one way or another, and this town's going to be better for it in the end. I also appreciate the fact that we watch our finances, and that's what we have to do here. We need to be sustainable. We are not like some of these other towns that have money flying into these accounts all the time. Again, I made the point about the developer impact fees. You know, that's sporadic, and that is the price that we pay for living in a small town that we love. And so therefore, like Mayor Pro Tem Alves said, it always boils down to money. So I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and have a safe trip home. Thank you, and I declare the meeting adjourned.
I'm going to join the committee.